This podcast is produced by Outcomes Rocket, your healthcare exclusive digital marketing agency. Outcomes Rocket exists to help healthcare organizations like yours to maximize their impact and accelerate growth. Visit outcomesrocket.com or text us at 312-224-9945. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Outcomes Rocket. I'm so excited to be hosting an amazing leader today. His name is Conrad Emmerich. He is the Chief Procurement Officer and Senior Vice President of Supply Chain Management at Advocate Health, the third largest nonprofit health system in the country, headquartered in Charlotte, North Carolina. Prior to this, he was Chief Procurement Officer and Senior Vice President for Supply Chain Management, Laboratory, and Imaging Services for Atrium Health before its merger with Advocate Aurora Health in 2022. In addition, he also serves as the President and CEO of Advocate Health Supply Chain Alliance, a group purchasing organization. Conrad, such a pleasure to have you with us today.
Yeah, thanks, Saul. I'm pretty excited, pretty pumped to have a conversation with you.
Oh, man, I am too. And look, I want to just give our listeners and viewers some context before we get things started. Is that cool?
Sure. Sounds great. Yep.
All right, great. So, folks, you've heard two of our interviews already. One with Tina Vatanka Murphy, the CEO of GHX. Another one with Marisa Faribaugh. And we're doing this really cool panel next week that is going to be around what is making the biggest impact in supply chain. Why we're doing this? Well, there's this thing called the Gartner Healthcare Supply Chain Top 25. They recognize health systems that set the standard for supply chain excellence, where they blend both data-driven and peer-reviewed insights. And Conrad and his organization earned one of the top spots in those top 25. And what that does is it signals industry leadership. They're improving patient outcomes, managing costs, driving innovation. And so today's interview with Conrad is going to be a sneak peek for the full panel that we're going to do next week at GHX Summit. So thrilled to be doing this with you, Conrad, and thank you very much.
Absolutely. Pleasure.
So look, congrats to you and the team on being on the list yet again. You know, Gartner recognized your health system for supply excellence. What were the key factors that you think led to you and the team being recognized for this?
Yeah. First, I think we do not take this recognition lightly. It is a very well-known metric and a very well-known award. And so we are over the moon to be consistently recognized in the Gartner Top 25. And every year we strive to be on that list. Our team, we put in a lot of effort in how do we continue to define and redefine our supply chain following industry trends. Like, we really take great pride in leading the industry from a supply chain perspective. So coming back to your question, Saul, I look at it kind of three key factors that we look at from a perspective is at Advocate Health, our supply chain focuses on the clinical relationship. We, from a supply chain standpoint, we're not making the decisions. We are merely executing and implementing or facilitating decisions that are made from a clinical product perspective and a clinical strategy perspective. So I think that relationship with clinicians is one. I'll say number two, we have a really robust supply chain governance structure where we interact and we connect with all levels of the organization, from the C-level individuals and contacts all the way down to our individual sites and key people within those sites. So I can share more about that at some point, but it is pretty robust. We're pretty proud of it. And we think it's one thing that really gets people engaged and informed about what's happening in supply chain management. And then lastly, it's about the people. And our people are our greatest asset. It's on the supply chain team, in our hospitals, the patients that we serve. Like, people are our greatest asset. And so we strive to continue to advance our interactions with our teams, elevate learning opportunities. We want to grow our teams to be, and our individuals to be, strong contributors, high performers. So we put a focus on our teams as probably our third one that I'd highlight for you.
Well, I think that's great, Conrad. And you guys have certainly demonstrated year after year your commitment to your people, your commitment to having that governance in place that produces results year after year.
Yeah.
You know, innovation's a big part of what supply chain organizations are looking to implement in order to do better, cheaper, faster. That's the theme, right? So Talk to us about how your organization is leveraging digital transformation, whether it's automation or AI, to optimize supply chain operations.
That's a great question. It's been a journey for us, even since late 2022 when we came together. We knew that the path for success, not just in supply chain, but from an organization, leads to a single central nervous system. And I'd say from a supply chain, from a business standpoint in healthcare, it's that ERP. So we knew early that we needed to transition and consolidate to one ERP. And we're doing that. Come July 1st is our go live date to move into a single ERP. And
That's
I say that it's a big day. And we put in a lot of effort on this. The teams are tired. However, they're energized. And I share that a little bit, Saul, because it was 2021 where legacy Atrium went live with the Oracle product. And it was in 2021 as well, where the legacy Advocate Aurora Health went live with Workday. So we're coming off of two major implementations. And then when we came together, it's like, oh, we need to move to one. So, we're back to back on these implementations and we're moving that direction. But I think continuing with that question and an answer on that from a digital strategy and how we're advancing intelligence in this space is, I'll use the example of our ability to get information quickly. And I'd say the use of advanced analytics. I'll draw the attention back to the fall when Hurricane Helene hit the Southeast and just devastated many parts of our state, amongst many others, our state being North Carolina. It gives me a little bit of the chills, Saul, because we are close to it. It's just up the road where all this devastation took place and we were massively impacted as well. But our team's ability, because of the situation with IV fluids, our team's ability within days to know exactly what product was sitting where throughout all 70 hospitals, throughout all of our 1,000+ clinic locations, through all of our warehouses. And like I said, in the matter of days, know where every single product is, being able to see the utilization and the develop forecast models within days for every single product by location was truly remarkable. And I think we were able to do that with two different ERPs, merging them together. But I give just massive kudos to a lot of smart people on our team that are really savvy in this. And I also give kudos to our operations teams that just built the foundation that allowed us to pull that data out of the system. So I think just that use of applied analytics and technology there to solve a problem quickly was probably one of our saving graces for that situation.
Conrad, such a great example. I remember very clearly when the situation happened with the storms and the IV bags. So kudos to you and the organization for really being able to weather that storm.
Yeah, it was truly remarkable. And I think, like I said, we've got some really talented people that were able to bring the data to life to help us tell a story and to allow us to take actions on that. Also use the example, Saul, we did a lot of load leveling from a supply inventory standpoint. And, we've got hospitals that sit south of Atlanta 2 hours to hospitals that sit in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So we were shuttling products at some point from Macon, Georgia to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, because we needed to redistribute some of our products. We were sending trucks back and forth. We felt it was kind of on us to be able to do that. And, our distributors and others helped when they could. But for us, we had to load level, and having that capability was just really phenomenal.
Yeah, well, no, that's fantastic. And that won't be the last thing that happens, right? So
yeah, and that's why it's so great to have that foundation from operations standpoint, enabling us to do that. Our analytics teams, I'm really proud of the team. And I think I said it was remarkable what they were able to pull off in probably about 48 hours of bringing all that information to life.
Well, look, you've mentioned this many times already. It's people and collaboration make the difference. And supply chain transformation, it relies heavily on this teamwork. How are you fostering collaboration across departments, especially with the clinician team? You mentioned that, to ensure long-lasting impact.
So I think here I'll talk a little bit about just our governance structure. We've got 4 levels within our supply chain governance. So we have an executive steering committee that meets on a quarterly basis. These are all the C levels. They are direct reports to our CEO. It's a handful, a little bit more, probably about 6 or 7 leaders of the organization that we essentially on a quarterly basis are giving them information about what's happening in the supply chain. and seeking feedback to ensure that our supply chain is moving in the right direction. So we've got that. Then we go down to a level 2, which is primarily many of our operators that are regional operators are both from a shared services as well as our hospital operations, medical group operations. So it's usually those leaders. And then level 3 takes us to the areas. So that's when you start getting area presidents and some more of our finance people involved. And then our level 4 essentially is like all of our sites. So we have series of meetings across the board with all of those. Our clinicians, our service line clinical leaders, our service line administrative leaders, they are sprinkled in at all 3 of those levels. Our enterprise value analysis committees form a similar alignment type structure, and they feed into it. So this entire governance structure is a little over 450 people in total. So when we need to communicate, it's a pretty quick cascading effect of communication throughout this structure. And we are able to get to people that, one, know about the supply chain. So when they're reading a memo or reading an action item or a pivot type item, they understand because they've been engaged in the supply chain and they're not just getting this cold. So we're pretty proud of how well we've established this governance structure and that it allows us some foundation to be able to have momentum to make and shift, pivot quickly. And also it's just engaging from a people standpoint.
That's really great. And it sounds very comprehensive, Conrad. A reliable place where you could disseminate information, receive the feedback from the critical teams on an ongoing basis at different levels. Folks, I know you're probably wishing we were doing a full interview here, but the intent is this is a teaser. For those of you that are going to join us at the GHX Summit, get ready because it's going to be jam-packed with value from Conrad and the rest of the team joining us there. For today, we're going to conclude with a closing thought from Conrad for maybe some of you supply chain leaders that aren't going to be able to make it. Conrad, what's a thought you'd like to leave them with as they also look to maximize their impact?
Yeah, I think the supply chain continues to get elevated. And I think that our organizations, our communities, our populations that we serve rely on us way more than what we even realize. And I think, what I would say is continue to be an expert in what you do, continue to be relevant, continue to force yourself to be at the table to bring topics forward. And I think if we continue to show up with relevancy, us as supply chain leaders and supply chain organizations, we'll continue to drive healthcare forward in a very favorable way.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Conrad. I couldn't agree more. Folks, what you do matters and the impact is huge. Conrad, this has been an incredible discussion. I'm excited to see you next week at the panel. Thank you for doing this. And for everybody tuning in, make sure you check out the show notes for all the ways to get the short notes on what we discussed today. And also, that's going to be the place where we follow up with the summary of the panel that's happening next week. Thank you all for tuning in. And Conrad, thank you for being with us. This podcast is produced by Outcomes Rocket, your healthcare exclusive digital marketing agency. Outcomes Rocket exists to help healthcare organizations like yours to maximize their impact and accelerate growth. Visit outcomesrocket.com or text us at 312-224-9945.